back for some social studies. So I have for you a longitude, latitude worksheet. I guess I need to put it up here on our board. Yeah, I'll get it in a few minutes here. So those of you at home watching can pull up the latitude, longitude worksheet here. And what you're going to do first is use your iPad, and you're going to see what kind of information you can find out about latitude and longitude. Now, we did talk about latitude and longitude already, so you may have some of those notes in your notebook. Okay, I'm going to give you, let's say, 5 minutes. See what you can find, what boxes you can fill in. So definition would mean you're finding the meaning of what this word is. Okay, a picture, you're just drawing kind of an example that would help you remember what longitude is. An example, you might write an example of how you'd find it written on paper. Okay, and then what is a non-example? So something that does not represent, in this case, longitude. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want you to find what information you can to fill that in, and we're going to share our ideas and see what we came up with. Okay? That's what you're working on. Everybody has a paper in here, right? We're all good? Let's see what's there. Oh, no, that's okay. Yep. We're just working on finding the latitude and longitude. Okay?
I already looked at it.
So we're filling that in. All right? We're going to go over it here in a couple minutes. Looking for information and writing the information down. That's just the other side of your worksheet. So you're going to want to go to Safari and do some searching on latitude and longitude. Yeah, towards the beginning of the year we talked about latitude and longitude. Not right now. Don't listen. You can find it in 2 minutes.
I'm so glad I saved this. Taking us down the line.
I don't think she comes to see us today. Few more seconds here. Yeah.
Do we have to do a picture and all that?
Yeah,
Do a picture. Like a picture of latitude and longitude.
Yep.
Do we need to do a picture of it?
Yep. That's what it's asking you to do. out right now. I'm going to talk about it here in just a minute.
This song.
Working. I think latitude is first. Working. You're working. I'll look your questions in a few minutes. Still in work you can. Fine, thank you.
Kenny should be all logged in. So.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right. Let's talk about latitude. That one was up there at the top of the page. So latitude, a way to remember latitude. Let me see, I found and I can post this on Schoology for you to look at. So here is latitude. Latitude lines lay flat. So the flat lines are the lat lines. So a nice rhyme to help you remember. Okay, so they run east and west, and this is what gets confusing. It's kind of what Sean and I were talking about. They run east and west on the maps, but they're measuring north and south. Okay, and I'm going to show you here on the board what your picture might look like. All right. So the definition would be, you could just write down flat lines are lat lines, so you know that they're flat. So here is my Earth, right? And then my latitude lines lay flat, so they go this way, right? They run east and west. We find them laying east and west. That would be an example of, that would be a picture, but you're probably going to want more information because they measure north and south. What do they measure north and south of? Where's our middle line, our zero line that they measure north and south? How far up or how far down a spot is? Josh?
The equator?
Right, this is the equator. Okay. I'm gonna write that here in my picture. So this is 0 degrees. That's what we call that. That's your zero mark. Okay, these are all imaginary lines, but that's where your 0 is. So you start here, and then I might work this way, and if this is 20 degrees, is it 20 degrees north or south of the equator? South, right? It's below the equator, so it's south. And then this line up here would be 20 degrees north. Fix my 2 here. Okay? So remember doing this where you had a 20 north and a 20 south? Okay, remember those lines running east and west? Okay, that would be a picture of latitude. That would be a good example. That would be a good picture. Okay? What would be a non-example of latitude? Kenny?
A line going up and down.
Right, so you could do the same thing, right? Take your Earth and then draw the lines going the other way, because that would be the opposite. We're going to talk about those lines here in a minute, okay? So this would be latitude. Let's go back over here to my paper. So if you didn't write some of this information down for latitude, this would also make a good definition, but this is to help you remember it, okay? So the latitude lines lay. We talked about them laying flat, okay? Question, Nick?
Isn't the equator, Earth, like the middle of Earth very hot and like has a lot of lava and stuff?
Yeah, so that equator is where it's the warmest. Okay, places closer to the equator are generally warmer. Riker?
I have a question.
Yep.
Why do, I know why, like, they talk about longitude and latitude, like, wide sideways, mouthways. Why don't they talk about,
Yeah, because you already have.
diagonal?
So when you think about playing Battleship, right? You
Yeah.
have the square and you are finding those there. So drawing another line through the middle really isn't going to do you any good. You got the 2, and wherever those meet, and we'll talk about that here too in a minute. Wherever they meet, that's where a location, right? So we have a latitude, longitude location that you might see written in different places. Kenny?
So, because I didn't have my iPad and I couldn't find it in my notebook, I thought longitude was from side to side, because to me in my brain that makes sense because it has the
I see
word
what you're
long.
saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. We're going to get to those. Latitude. Let's finish talking about latitude. So they lay flat. Okay, that's what you need to remember. Lay flat. Nick?
Don't we use latitude and longitude lines in math with the coordinate grid?
Similar thing. Yeah, if you think about the coordinate grid, it is kind of the same thing, right? Where it's just numbers.
Yeah.
You're doing ordered pairs instead of here you're doing numbers as well. Okay? We're just talking about degrees north or south, adding a unit of measure in this case, where your coordinate grid might measure different things, right? Locations, maps. So yeah, very similar, kind of the same thing. We're just giving it a little different names. Okay, so now we're going to look at the longitude lines here. So those are the long lines, which means they stand. Remember, I always stand. Okay, Mrs. Long stands upright. So your longitude lines are the ones that are running north and south, but they're measuring east and west. Okay, so let's go back over here to my picture. I'm going to fix it so that way it looks. Longitude. There we go. Draw my earth here. See if I can draw one like I did over there, right? Almost. First one was better. All right. So here are, let's make them red. Let's do a different color. And Kenny mentioned sideways, right? They're measuring kind of this way. So we start here and we work that way. Okay, what's in the middle? It's not the equator anymore because the equator runs here. Where are we measuring these lines from on longitude? Maya? Yeah, the prime meridian, which my marker would work. There we go. Would be your 0 degree on this one. So that's your prime meridian. Okay? Prime meridian. All right, so now, even though they run north and south, remember they measure east and west. So if I say this line here, let's go way out here to this line, is 40 degrees. Is it east or west of that line? I think you just talked about this with Mrs. Bush, right? Never eat sour watermelons. Ooh. Never eat shredded wheat, I think is one I always knew. So, soggy waffles. There you go. So we know north is up here, south is here. 3, 2, we're done. Tear down. Thank you. So what way is this, Josh?
This way?
Yep. This is 40 degrees.
North?
This north is up top.
West?
North, south,
East.
west, east. Okay, so that would be 40 east. That would make this 40 degrees west. Okay, so again, this would be a good picture to have so you can see it. Because sometimes the words get confusing. Right, that's why they wanted you to draw pictures. So this is our longitude. That's our latitude. What happens when I take these two and I put them together? Oh, this is where I need more board space. Right? I know, except I use them. I'm going to go way up here at the top. I'm going to move this so they can see. There we go. Hang on. So here's my equator. There's my prime meridian, right?
That looks like a plus.
It does. And then I'm going to take here and keep our latitude lines green. There's some more. What's going to happen when I start to draw these longitude lines? This is where, when you're thinking coordinate grid, right? This is where that kind of comes into play. Adam? What's that? One more time. Yeah, it is going to make that grid, isn't it? So here we have, now I have a colorful grid. But I can find points on this grid, right, where they meet, where they're intersecting. So here, if I start at this prime meridian and I work one way or the other, okay, I'm going to count out. I'm just making, at this point, some numbers here to kind of guide us. So if I wanted 20 degrees, this is what? East or west?
East.
This is east. If I want 20 degrees east, and let's say I want 40 degrees north, we're going to call this 20, 40. I'm going to end up right here, right?
Yep.
20 degrees east, and if I followed up to 20 degrees north, I land here. What do you think's there? Any ideas what might be there? I guess it depends on what side I'm on here. What do you think, Kenny?
Being like up by Greenland.
Could be up by Greenland. Let's see.
Oh, we're talking about this.
I don't know what's...
It's a North Pole.
Oh, these are labeled for us on this. I'm close, aren't I? So I said 20 degrees north. No, 40 degrees north. So here's 20, 30, here's 40 north, and then 20 east. Some of them aren't labeled, so it's going to take me a minute to find them. Let's see. I don't see any of those labeled. I found all the
Imagine how much,
latitude lines. Oh, here we go.
this long.
Yeah.
Imagine how much times Mrs. Bush's class gets you just sit back because how much times we have to stop and look at things.
We're looking at things. Yeah, because we're doing social studies. So I see 20 north and 45 west, but we did east, right?
Yep.
These are not, there they are. Say, these are not labeled the best here for me to find them on this globe. Here we go. Or I'm just blind, right, Mrs. Bush? I'm just blind because I'm so old.
Oh.
And I can't find them. So here's 30 east. So we'd be in here somewhere. 20 north I gotta find again.
Yeah, Miss Fong, you just
See, and
said
they're not labeled in the same spot. You gotta follow them over here.
Miss Fong, you just said it to her face.
So according to my map, it looks like we're way up here, right? But on this globe, that is not the case. It's actually here in Africa somewhere.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind, mine's not to scale, right? And then I just made some numbers and we went with it. So mine looks like we're almost to the North Pole, but we're not so much. Those lines are much closer, okay? But you get the idea, right? You're gonna find it just like you do with the ordered pairs. You're gonna go one and then up, right? You run first, then you jump.
Yep.
Isn't that what you were doing? Okay. To see where you're at here on these, on the latitude, longitude lines. Let's look at the back side of that paper, or page 2. I'm gonna slide back over. We've got some questions to answer. I'm gonna leave this up because this could be helpful to answer those questions. So I'm looking at this page. Okay. Question, Josh?
The prime meridian sounds like a Star Wars character.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Are they numbered? Part 3, number 1. What is the equator and where is it located? What is the equator and where is it located? John? It is in the middle, but how in the middle? I need a little more than that. How in the middle is it located, Brendan? What does it do?
So yes, it's the middle of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
0 degrees, and it's the warmest part.
It is.
Wait,
How does it divide the Earth, though?
No,
How does it divide the Earth, Jackson?
because it's the line in the middle of latitude.
It is. It's a latitude line, okay? It's in the middle there. And it divides the Earth into what 2 hemispheres? Maya? North and south. Okay, so you want to make sure you mention that it divides the Earth into north and south. It is the 0 degree latitude line. Okay, those are things you could write down for, it says part 3 there on the back. Riker, I don't see you writing. Turn it over. And number 2 wants to know about the prime meridian and where it's located. Kenny?
In the middle of the longitude lines divides the east and west hemisphere.
Right, so it divides it into eastern and western hemisphere, and it's the 0-degree longitude line for your prime meridian. Okay?
Wait, so
Number 2 is the prime meridian. And that takes us to part 4. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here. I want you to answer 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll give you the answers to those. And then I'll give you yours. I got a couple of things to go over yet here, so we'll finish up with those multiple choice questions. So answer those, and I'll give you the answers to them when you're done.
I thought the equator was the like orbit around the Earth.
What's an imaginary line that divides the Earth into north and south hemisphere?
Then what's it called? What's the thing around the Earth?
The moon? The axis?
There is nothing around the
The
Earth.
moon? No.
That's
Why,
the orbit.
as the moon is around us.
It's orbit. We're writing something. They answering those questions.
I don't know what the heck it is. Prime meridian.
A board, I just told you what it was.
I don't see it.
Here it is. Right, throw that away. It looks like you turned yours in. Throw that away. Did you turn yours in? All right, those notes that you just took and we talked about should have helped you answer those questions.
Which way is it?
So number 1, lines that run north and south. So they run north and south. Remember, they're standing tall. What are those lines called, Adam? Those are your longitude lines, so that's letter B. Number 1 should be B. Number 2, latitude lines on a globe run from, let's go over here and look, or it tells you on that chart. So latitude, right, it's asking about? Latitude lines on a globe run from, how do they run? How do they go, Ioana? East to west, which is letter B. Okay, but they measure north to south. They run east to west. And number 3, what is at 0 degrees latitude? 0 degrees latitude. Well, hopefully you know that. We just answered it in the other part there. Which one is that? Ooh, I got some hands. Claire? The equator, letter D. Okay? If you have part 5 there, you can add some lines on to make sure you understand latitude and longitude, but that is it for today. Okay, kind of a quick review. Get that fresh in your mind. I'm not collecting this. You're not submitting it. Okay, you can hold on to it, put it back in your notes. But we have a couple more things here I want to go over. I have an extra credit that's available to you starting today.
When does it end?
So I have paper copies for those of you here at school, because it might be a little bit easier to use the paper copies. Those of you at home can always print it off if you prefer to do it that way. Or have the option to upload this to Notability. There it is, 3 pages, and it's talking about primary and secondary sources, which is what you are doing a vocabulary on Friday. There are many of you that did not finish that vocab, so make sure you get that done. Okay, and it's asking you then to find a historical figure or event. Okay, so if you decide to pick George Washington, then your information would be based on George Washington. Or maybe you're going to pick something that happened within the American Revolutionary War. Or you're going to pick the American Revolutionary War. That's up to you. Okay, as long as it's a historical figure or event that you're researching. So something that's already happened in history. Okay. that pertains to the United States in some way.
Like World
Okay?
War II.
That'd be fine too. If you want to do some research on World War II, that's fine with me. Okay? So your subject you're going to write here. So if I pick George Washington, I'd write his name there. Then I have to find a primary source, okay, and tell you tell me what it tells me. What information am I getting from that? Okay, what's a primary source? If it's primary, what does that mean, Kenny?
It means it's like kind of like a witness.
Okay, so that person was there, right? Was something, they were there, they had seen it. Okay, they're not getting their information from somebody else. That would be secondary. If you have a secondary source, then you are getting that information from somebody else. Okay, so this might be, I think a lot of them had talked about on your FlowCab, like Instagram posts or diary journals, those kinds of things. Autobiographies would be information that that person told you. Okay, and they witnessed those things. So you need 2 primary sources and then 2 secondary sources that you're going to list here on this paper. Okay, and then from there, you're going to take that information. You have some pages here. You might need other sources. This you might end up leaving blank. That's up to you if you need more. And then you're going to write a short report about your person or event. Okay, and you're including the information that you gathered from your primary and secondary sources. It doesn't have to be super long. Okay, 3 paragraphs. Plenty. I'm not looking for you to write a novel about this particular thing. Just a quick couple of paragraphs. You see how much space they give you. This half a page and then that page. Okay? On whatever you pick as far as a historical figure or event go. Question, Maya?
Can I do COVID?
Can you do what?
Can I do COVID as a primary source? This is about something.
You're going to have to take your mask off and tell me.
Can I do COVID for a primary source?
COVID for a primary source?
Shut down.
So, what is your historical event going to be? Like, that's what your historical event is going to be?
Closed down on my birthday. The school's closed down on my birthday.
That sucks.
I suppose you could use that as that would be your subject, and then you're going to have to find sources to back up the information you're giving us. And you or your parents might be a primary source, right? Okay, all right. Kenny?
Could I do the Vietnam War?
Mm-hmm.
My grandpa was in it.
There you go. Yeah, that'd be a good one. So you might gather some information from him, right, on things that happened. Okay, good. A minute. Question? You're good, Riker?
I'm kind of like debating.
Okay, well, we can come back to it and talk about it later, okay? All right, so that is due May 3rd, so you should have plenty of time to gather some resources and write a quick report on whatever it is you pick. Remember, it's extra credit. It's not necessarily required, but I would highly encourage you to do it because that's it for extra credit for social studies, okay? Let's see. Today, I'm looking for...
11:18.
I know, time is going fast, isn't it? Today you have in the All About States folder, New Hampshire and South Dakota. Those of you here at school get a hard copy so you can do it that way. Tomorrow, don't forget, you have a states quiz 1 over the states that we've already done. So Virginia, Minnesota, Indiana, Maryland, North Carolina, Vermont, and New Jersey, right? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Yep, so everything above, well, you don't see this, but these first links are what you are studying for the quiz tomorrow. Remember, I had mentioned rivers, major rivers you wanted to kind of look at. Make sure you have them labeled. Do you know where they're at? Hunter, I need your eyes up here, please. Capitals, okay? So capitals as in state capitals and nations capitals. Make sure you have both of those kind of in mind, okay? Where they're located or what they are. All right, so you have that quiz tomorrow, and you have New Hampshire and South Dakota you're doing today. They will not be on the quiz for tomorrow. They'll be on the next quiz. Okay? All right, so that is your social studies. I went over the extra credit. You have the 2 states to work on, and we reviewed latitude, longitude. Questions about social studies? Eli.
I have 2. For the does the thing for the extra credit have to be like in like the 1700s to the
No.
1800s, or can it be
That's
like
why
newer?
Maya was asking about doing the COVID pandemic that was becoming a historical event, right? might say it's still in the process, but, so no, it can be whatever time frame you want it to be.
Oh,
Okay.
and can we use our, like our Minnesota, Vermont?
The worksheets for the
Worksheets.
quiz tomorrow?
Yeah.
Nope. That's why I'm telling you to study, and that's why I kind of narrowed down what you need to study. Okay, capitals. And I think there were only 2 major rivers, because I said major rivers. I wasn't looking at the smaller rivers that are there. Okay, there are only 2 major rivers.
So like one's like
Okay.
Michigan and
So that's not a lake, a river. Major rivers. Okay, and you may have to look those up to see what the major rivers are. But like I said, Friday, most of them will be ones you're like, oh, I've heard of the Mississippi River or the Missouri River, the Ohio River. Okay, so look at those. Jackson. I'd be open to that. Sean?
I have 2 questions. One,
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys get to work, and I'm gonna answer their questions. If you have questions, you can message me.